Okay, so this is the second section of chapter 6, and we're talking about parallelograms. So a parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. So if I were to look at parallelogram A, B, C, D, and I'm going to call it with that little symbol here, a little parallelogram here, our parallel sides are going to be AB and CD. So we're going to say AB is parallel to CD, and then our other pair of parallel sides, BC and AD. So that's why we're calling it a parallelogram. Got two pairs of parallel sides. There are three things that we're going to use to help us find any missing angles or side lengths for our parallelograms. So if we know that we have a parallelogram, then we'll also know that both pairs of our opposite sides are congruent. So if AB is one of my sides and CD, so AB is opposite CD, and so it is also congruent to CD. So AB is congruent to CD. Then the other pair of opposite sides are going to be congruent, so BC is going to be congruent to AD. And our third fact about our parallelograms, if we're given that our figure, our quadrilateral, is a parallelogram, then both pairs of opposite sides, angles, I'm going to write angles, are congruent. Here we go. So I've got parallelogram A, B, C, D in opposite angles. So A is opposite C, so A is congruent to C. And then B is congruent to D. The last piece of info, if we're given that we have a parallelogram, then consecutive angles are supplementary. And this kind of goes back to having parallel lines. So we have parallelogram A, B, C, D, and obviously AB was parallel to CD, and then BC parallel to the opposite side, AD. Consecutive angles means the ones that are next to each other here, those are going to be supplementary. So A, B, and B, A and B, those angles are going to be supplementary. So the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B is going to be 180. And if you move around the parallelogram, it'll be the case for all of these. So B and C are supplementary. So the measure of angle B plus the measure of angle C is 180. And you can swap out any pairing here. So you could do A and B because they're consecutive, they're right next to each other, then B and C. You could also do A and D. Those two are supplementary, and C and D are also supplementary. So as long as they're just right next to each other. And we will apply these to our parallelograms. These should all be parallelogram symbols here, because these are parallelograms. And so for the first example, we've got 80 degrees. Angle A is 80. And so our opposite angles are congruent. So Y is also 80 because it's across. It's opposite angle A. Then we look at 80 and how it will relate to probably X here. We've got consecutive angles, angle A and angle B. So angle A plus angle B, those two should add up to 180 because our consecutive angles are supplementary. So 80 plus X is equal to 180. So X is 100 degrees. So we got that. And Z is directly across from X. So our opposite angles are congruent. So Z is also 100. So this chapter is going to be a lot of just knowing our rules for our quadrilaterals or other polygons and applying it to find our missing variables. 2, kind of the same idea. BC and AD are opposite sides, and opposite sides are congruent in a parallelogram. So x plus 40 is equal to 2x plus 10. And we'll get x is equal to 30. And the last two, so we've got those 3 kind of theorems running through our heads when we look at these pictures. So angle A and angle M, for example 3, are not opposite angles. They are actually consecutive. They're like right next to each other. So they are supplementary. So if they're supplementary, the two of them, the sum of their angles here is going to be 180. So we'll get 11x plus 15, subtract 15 from both sides, and we will get x is equal to 15. And depending on the question, they might ask for just x, or they might ask for those angle measures. So if they were asking for the measure of angle A, we would take x and plug it in. So we would have 3 times 15 is 10. Then for 4, these are not consecutive. They are opposite angles. And opposite angles in a parallelogram are congruent. So 3x is equal to x plus 40. Subtract x from both sides, and we get 2x is equal to 40, and x is 20. So questions could be find x or find the measure of angle G and O. They would both be 60. Or you could find all the angles. And since we've got consecutive angles here, 60 plus the measure of angle M should be 180. So this will be 120. And I've got an opposite angle here. So that's also 120. And that's it for